Hello, we are here to learn how to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Now, in physics class, you have used formulas before, such as v, or velocity, equals distance divided by time. We are going to use a formula that's just slightly more complex, but very same idea. Our formula is called the quadratic formula, and what it says is, if ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then x equals this huge big formula. Now, don't worry, I will teach you how to use it, I promise. Let's look at example number 1. Just like with zero product property, we have to make sure that our equation says equals 0. If it doesn't, we have to make it equal 0. So, lucky for us, this equation already says equals 0. So what we need to do is determine what a, b, and c are. A is always your leading coefficient, or the number in front of your x squared. B is always in the middle, the number in front of your x. And c is always your constant. So our formula tells us that x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, something that's really going to help you out is that when you plug in values for a, b, and c, is to use parentheses. So, I usually write my formula with parentheses around every single variable. That way, I can't forget them. So now let's go through and actually plug in our numbers. So anywhere that there is an a, I need to plug in the number 2. So there's an a here and an a here. I'm going to go plug in the number 2 into each of those spots. Now anywhere that there is a b, I need to plug in also the number 2. So I have 2 and 2. Then anywhere that there is c, I need to put the number negative 12, which is right down here at the end of my problem. Now all I simply need to do is calculate this. Now, the easiest way to do this is to, in your calculator, type in everything in the square root, including the square root symbol. So if you type in all that information into your calculator, you find that x equals, this negative 2 part is coming down, plus or minus, replace the whole highlighted part with the number 10 because that's what the calculator tells you. And on the bottom of our fraction, 2 times 2 makes 4. Now, this symbol, this plus or minus symbol that we have, tells me that my two answers depend on whether I add or whether I subtract. So I'm going to split this up into two pieces as negative 2 plus 10 divided by 4 and negative 2 minus 10 divided by 4. Now I simply have to calculate each one. Now, when you're typing this into your calculator, you need to type in just the top of your fraction first. Negative 2 plus 10 is 8, and then divide by 4. So 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. The other side, negative 2 minus 10, is negative 12, divide by 4, and I get negative 3. So my two answers for x are x equals 2 and x equals negative 3. Please try question number 2 while pausing the video, then restart the video to check your answer. Now, take a look at question number 3. Remember, we must check to make sure that our equation says equals 0. This question does not. So we have to make it say equals 0. And to do that, we're going to subtract 4 from each side. That way, this will cancel out and make a 0. Now, because minus 4 is not a like term with x squared or with x, we're simply going to tack it on to the end of our problem. Now I can use the quadratic formula. Please pause the video, try the problem, and restart it once you believe you have your answer. Now try question 4. Restart the video once you're ready to check your answer. Let's look at question number 5 together. First, I have to make sure that my equation says equals 0. So I'm going to add 7 to each side to cancel this out and make it equal 0. Now, the 15 and the 7 are like terms because neither of them have an x, so I can add them together. So my equation, or my quadratic, is 8x squared plus 7x plus 23. Now I'm going to set up my quadratic formula. And if I solve this problem like I normally would, and I type the square root with all of these numbers into my calculator, a strange thing happens. My calculator tells me that there is an error and tells me that I have non-real solutions. Now what that means is we cannot take the square root of something that's negative. And if you look, 7 squared minus 4 times 8 times 23 would end up with a negative number. And the square root of a negative does not work. So if you ever get the message when you type in your square root that it's an error or that they have non-real solutions, that simply means that for this problem there are no real solutions. That we cannot actually find out what x equals in this situation.